Hello, I'm James Baxter. I'm the supervising animator for Spirit, and today we are going to draw Spirit. To make it a little easier, we've broken it down into 4 easy-to-follow steps. Step 1, from the inside out. Step 2, flesh it out. Step 3, details. And Step 4, just add color. If you are anything like I was before I started this film, you'll know horses are pretty tough to draw. But the important thing is have fun and get your pencils ready. You'll need plain white drawing paper, a soft lead pencil, sharpened, an eraser, and some other colored pencils. Whatever color you want them to be, really. Now, the secret to drawing horses is draw them from the inside out. That is, know what their skeleton is and put that in first, and then you can draw the horse over the top. With horses, your backbone is pretty straight along his back. Now, a good tip when you're sketching this stuff in is don't press too hard, because you might have to rub it out later. Now, remember that horses' bodies and legs are pretty square. So if you imagine this is like a square and the floor is down here, his body is about a sort of a square shape. So if you start putting in his rib cage right here, and then his shoulders out in front, and his rear end back here, and then put in circles for where all the joints are. Now, horses have just the same joints as you and I do, but they're in slightly different places, and their bones are all different lengths. So if you try and think about this as your arm, this is your elbow right here, but with the horse it's right up next to his body. And then this is your forearm right there. And what looks like the knee on a horse is actually your wrist right here. And then let's have the other leg coming out in a nice sort of proud way. So elbow, wrist, hand. His back legs start way up here, and that's his thigh down to his knee right there. And then this is his lower leg, and then his foot, again, unlike you and I, instead of being flat on the ground, is actually up, like he's got platform shoes on, or rather, stiletto heels. So he's standing on his toes, like that. And he's got his feet at the bottom, like that. There's one leg, and we'll put the other leg a bit further back, like that. His head is sort of a circle up there, and a sort of a cone shape, and I usually put another circle at the bottom, like there. So he's looking at you. That'll be more fun. You have to make sure that his neck connects up to his head, like that. Now we've got a basic plan for our horse. Now we're done with his skeleton, we can put in his surface, roughing out his muscles and all the things on top of the skeleton. Let's start with his back. Now his backbone goes straight through his body, and that's actually a really good line to use because it tells you where the tail comes out. There's a big bump there. It's like a couple of mountains, like that. It's a shape like that. Then his neck starts at the top of his withers and attaches to the back of his head, like that, in a nice curve. We have to describe the front of his shoulder with a line that comes down here and in there, like that. You see his pelvis right here? There's like a little change of direction around the end of his pelvis, like that. And then when you're drawing his belly, it's good to try and point his belly towards that little change of direction. That's where that goes to. And then we have to start drawing the legs, the hard part. We've got our joints worked out, so we know where everything goes, and we have to put the muscles on the top. He's got nice big forearms and an elbow right there, and then sometimes I put a faint little line right here. So this forms sort of a triangle, really. Then the thin parts are where the bones are, and the thick parts are where the joints are. So it goes thin down to his fetlocks. On you, that would be the junction between your finger and your palm, right there, the horse's fetlock. And then his hooves, which are sort of cone-shaped, really. There's one. Now put the other leg in. Now his leg is further forward than this one, so I'm going to draw it so you can see his other shoulder in there, and then his muscles in between. So again, thick up the top. This joint is actually pretty square, it's like a little box. And then the thin part, and then the joint at the bottom, and then we'll pick this hoof off the ground. Yeah, looking more like a horse? Good. Okay, so the face, we got our two big volumes, got the back of his head and his nose at the bottom, and now we have to sort of square it off, make it almost like a brick. So you can see the top of his nose, and that's the top of his eyes, where his eyebrows, his eyes sit underneath there, like that. And then we put in his cheek, down the bottom, like there. And then his muzzle at the end. Give him a little smiley face. Put in his other cheek over this side. And his eyes, which sit sort of almost on the side of his head. Now his ears go right where his head meets his neck. I also think of them as tubes, which have been sort of shaped into almost like little flower petals. His hair comes down to a point right in the middle of his forehead, right there. It comes from his neck down to a point like that. So that's where it grows from, so that's where it's starting, so then we can just think we're going to put the hair out like that. Now we've got the head, we can put in where that neck joins into his head, right around there, just underneath his throat. And the other part of the neck comes in and joins just above his chest, right there. Now let's draw his back legs. From the front, the muscle comes down to the knee, like that. So you got the knee, and then this is his ankle. And this is pretty sort of parallel